Hi, my name is Ponder Goddard, and I'm nobody, but I have something I really want to talk about, so I'm hoping to open a conversation with you. I'm recording this on Friday, August 28th in the evening, and I've had all day to think about what we as a nation witnessed last night. Last night, for the history books, last night was the closing night of the Republican National Convention, and Donald Trump's triumphant nominating speech or acceptance speech of the nomination. We, as a nation, were treated to the spectacle of not only the people's house being used as a prop for producing good television, but also people themselves, our people, over 1,000 people, I think I've been told, gathered, most of whom were not wearing masks, in the middle of a pandemic of a highly transmissible and complex novel virus. It all just shook me. And I wanted to talk a little bit about a phrase that's been going around a lot ever since Donald Trump announced his candidacy, actually, and for longer than that. This phrase has been going around in various forms, really, since the end of 1978. And that phrase is drink the Kool-Aid, or drinking the Kool-Aid. And I'm sure you've heard this phrase, maybe you've used it. And last night, I knew that we'd be hearing it a lot more in the coming days, running up to the November elections, assuming that we have them. And I wanted to talk to you for a moment about that phrase, what it means, what it's a reference to, and why it's relevant for our moment right now. And just get into the conversation with you about that. So thank you for being here. And thank you for listening, and thank you for engaging. I welcome your comments and thoughts. I welcome your contributions, and I'd love to hear from you. So please comment below and keep this conversation going. I'm very interested to hear what you're thinking. So drinking the Kool-Aid. Let's revisit this little chestnut. In November of 1978, we lost more American civilians in a single event than we've ever lost until September 11th in 2001. It was in what's commonly referred to as a mass suicide at Jonestown in Guyana, a compound that was meant to be a socialist utopia for everybody who moved there. There were many American citizens there, as well as many people from Guyana and the neighboring regions as well, and people who had felt called to be part of this revolutionary community led by the Reverend Jim Jones. Now, Jim Jones was your prototypical cult leader in many ways, narcissistic, with totalistic ambitions to purify souls, purify life, and create heaven on earth. And he attracted quite a following from my neighborhood in the San Francisco Bay Area of California. That's where I'm originally from. So this tragedy has always been a part of my upbringing, if you see what I mean. We lost many people. The trauma was felt locally in my community. And not personally, my family didn't know anyone who died at Jonestown, but it was one of those things that reverberated for us. So if it seems like I take it a little bit personally, maybe that's why. But, it was a massive trauma that the entire nation watched and didn't understand at all. It was the beginning of our conversation about cults and what cults are and how they function, but it was a shock. I mean, nobody knew how to understand 918 people dying in what looked like a mass suicide. and many of them died by ingesting a cyanide-laced refreshment. People refer to it as Kool-Aid, but it actually was not Kool-Aid. It was a similar product known as Flavor-Aid. So first of all, the phrase drink the Kool-Aid is just factually inaccurate on that fundamental basic level. It wasn't even Kool-Aid. It was Flavor-Aid. But beside that, the phrase drink the Kool-Aid has come to signify something that we need to talk about. It's come to signify mindless followers giving over everything to a charismatic leader and lovingly destroying themselves in the name of the leader and in worship of the leader and in adoring obedience to the leader. We drink the Kool-Aid when we give up our own ability to have independent rational thought, right? We hear it actually on the left and the right when people want to sort of, let's get honest about it. It's a phrase that's laced with contempt and disdain. It's a phrase that shows contempt and disdain for what other people are doing, and also a complete lack of understanding for why they might be doing it. And it's usually a way of calling people stupid and gullible and manipulated and under mind control. Now, the difficulty there is that what we actually know about so-called mind control is that you don't have to be stupid to be a victim of it. You really don't. And if you'd like to hear more about that, I will be talking more about that as the coming weeks and months progress. We'll be talking about thought reform techniques, mind control techniques, who's vulnerable, how it works, and among other things. But it's important to think about this phrase, drink the Kool-Aid, and when you see it, which you will see it, you'll see it on the left and the right, as a way of showing scorn towards people who are behaving in ways that maybe you don't understand, or that maybe you think the only reason they do that is if they're brainwashed. The trouble is that at Jonestown, that's not what happened. People didn't just happily drink the Kool-Aid, Flavor-Aid, cyanide, because their leader told them to. Actually, if you listen to the recordings of what happened that night, people were forced at gunpoint to poison their children and then to poison themselves as they watched and heard their fellow congregants and community members die horrible deaths around them. And if they tried to escape, they were shot by the armed guards overseeing this ritual of what the Reverend Jim Jones called revolutionary suicide. Okay, so the people at Jonestown didn't lovingly drink cyanide in a brainwashed stupor of incomprehensible stupidity. They were forced by a madman. Okay, it wasn't a mass suicide, it was a mass murder. So when we say drink the Kool-Aid with that kind of scorn, it's actually a form of victim blaming, and it's a way of denying how vulnerable we all are to forms of persuasion, how the most precious thing about a human being, the desire for soul and communion and spirit and love and to be part of a shared vision for building a better life for each other, that those fundamental, incredible, beautiful human qualities, the most precious things about us, can be taken advantage of by master manipulators. And it's not that hard to do it. So last night, we saw 1,000 people gather together in front of the White House during a plague and act like the plague wasn't real. And so tonight I just wanted to offer up a prayer of blessing to the 918 souls lost at Jonestown, and also to the friends, families, loved ones, co-workers of anyone who attended that deeply misguided ritual parade of power last night. Anyone who gathered there who might become infected, might infect their loved ones, might infect their mates and their colleagues, or a passing stranger. And I just want to pray out a blessing to them, because they are also victims of a master manipulator. And it isn't their fault, but as a nation that witnessed Jonestown, we need to pull our socks up and recognize that it's all of our responsibility to get our people back before it gets any worse. So that's my talk on drinking the Kool-Aid. We'll also have some discussions about this idea of revolutionary suicide and its connection to what Robert J. Lifton calls the dispensing of existence. We're going to talk about the domination system and how language is one of the primary maintaining factors of the domination system, so that when we use phrases like drink the Kool-Aid and participate in that kind of callous dismissal of a national trauma that we actually haven't healed from or understood or grieved, that's part of what maintains a domination paradigm in which we think that only people who deserve to be manipulated for being so stupid are manipulated. So we have a lot to talk about, and I'd like you to join me. And like I said before, I welcome your feedback, and we're going to get through this together. I know we will. God bless the whole world, huh? Good night and good luck.